Our conversation with our Extension Director is brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Mr. Bob, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you with us here today as we have this great improving weather picture. And the middle of March has been really, really spectacular for us so far, hasn't it?
It has.
Yeah.
Not too warm, which is good. It looks like, in the coming days we're going to still have some temperatures dipping down maybe in the low 20s in spots around the county. So that's still pretty chilly. So we don't want to get too excited yet.
Yeah.
But when the sun does shine through the clouds, we just need to enjoy that for the moment.
Yeah. So we in the fall we brought our more tropical style plants that have been sitting out in the nice summer. We brought them indoors and protected them through the winter. Some of them are just gasping for sunlight, and they've got the opportunity with some warmer weather. But is it too early to say put them out on the patio for a day and bring them in at night, or should we keep waiting and trying to foster them through for the rest of the spring until it gets warmer?
Yeah, it's too soon yet. We're only getting into the, pretty much into the 50s. We had a couple days there where, we just touched 70, but it was still kind of a cool breeze out there. Mm-hmm. So those plants are still more accustomed to warmer, more consistent temperatures. So we really have a ways to go yet before we'd want to just take them and toss them out on that unheated porch. Now, if you have an enclosed heated area or something like that, that's a different story. Mm-hmm. And maybe with more windows where plants might get more sun, in most cases that's better, especially for those ones that need higher light levels. And you can kind of look at your plants and also tell whether they're really searching for that sunlight or not, as to whether they're growing in a directional manner towards the window, towards that source of light, versus being, more consistent and more full the whole way around. And so sometimes you literally, over the winter, need to just keep turning those pots around so that the plant can kind of be more natural versus stretching and growing towards that light source. And the other thing that can happen is if they are growing any, and we don't tend to get very much growth during the winter anyhow, but they'll get leggy, so they'll stretch. They're trying to stretch up to reach the light, and that can happen with even plants you're starting to grow now. So if you have maybe some flower seeds that you've sown or vegetable seeds that you're starting, when you're indoors like that, or even if you're trying to use natural light to get those plants to germinate and grow, if you don't have enough light close enough to the plants, they will start to stretch and they won't be able to stand up. It's all those other plants in the same container or in the flat that are helping hold each other up versus those plants being stiff enough and to stand up on their own. Mm-hmm. So having a light source or supplemental lighting that you can, and typically we use fluorescent type lights for that because they give off very low amounts of heat. Incandescent bulbs, if you hold your hand near them, you can feel the heat coming off those, and you rarely can do that with a fluorescent tube. So you can get it closer to the source, keep those plants stockier. The other thing that you can do with new plants like that as they're coming up is just to have some air movement. So even just a little tabletop fan or just a little bit of a blower that you can just move air around a couple times a day, just to get those plants to sway back and forth. That will help make them stronger, stiffen up the stems, and so you'll have a better transplant.
Little plant exercise going on there.
Yes, definitely.
You can call Bob at 479-1160 if you have a question you'd like to ask him. And as we wait to see if somebody does have a question for you this morning, I have one, and that has to do with the idea of a hot box. Is it time that we could put things out in a hot box right now? How deep should it be?
Yeah, you can start things in those structures at this point, definitely. As long as you can, and you're most likely going to start plants that are more of cool season crops in those, and depending on whether you have any supplemental heat, sometimes people will put a little bit of heat source in there, or you can even run a light bulb in there for the times when you need to. Mm-hmm. But we're depending on the sun then to shine into that and provide that main heat source, heat up that soil. And then a lot of times we'll put compost in there or manure and work that into the soil. And as that's processing, that gives off a little bit of heat and warmth also that can help, warm that structure. Because typically they are unheated, and we're depending on Mother Nature to provide some warmth to that.
Yeah,
but yeah,
we do have a caller.
Crops, onions, things like that.
Let's get to our caller this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. I have a question, 2 questions for Bob.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Okay, my first one, Bob, how are you doing?
Good.
Good. Our pine trees, we have very tall, very, very, very old pine trees. They're well over 100 years old. And they lost all their tips since last fall, early winter. And I have several trees. They all did the same, and my friend, hers did the same. Is that because of last year's drought?
Now, did you have pieces fall off the tree, or the needles came off?
Pardon me? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Did you have pieces fall off, or did the needles just fall off?
The tips, not just the needles, like 2 and 3 inch tips, like you snip the tips of all the pines. That was what fell all through our yards.
Mm.
Okay, a couple things could be going on there. If they truly are a pine tree, there's a disease called Diplodia Tip Blight, which can attack those trees, and it literally causes the tips of the branches to die back. And by this point in the year, that wood would be dried down, dead, and so it could easily, in a storm, snap off, and you could have all those tips come down. Now, the other thing sometimes that can happen are squirrels can literally cause parts of those tree branches to rain down. They'll feed, they'll chew on the tips of the branch and just lop them off.
Okay.
So that's a possibility if you have a bunch of squirrels. But the other thing is this Diplodia Tip Blight, and it primarily attacks pines. Now, if they're spruce, then that could be like the Colorado spruce.
Well, these aren't. I can't tell you which one they are. They're the real short needle one. They're not the long, like alpine pine. And this tree is at least 4 stories high, so I think the squirrels would have had to been crazy busy. And
you've got marauding bands of squirrels.
Pardon me?
You have marauding bands of squirrels coming through the neighborhood.
I don't think we have that many.
Yeah, okay.
So what can you do about the disease? Is the tree going to die and fall on my house?
So are there still needles on the tree all the way up and down?
Yes, there are.
Okay. All right, that's good. That's pretty helpful. So that kind of helps us kind of say that because it's holding needles, we've got a lot better chance of everything surviving, and it might have been
a
more temporary situation.
Yeah. Well, that's helpful. Thank you. Another thing is we have a scrubby tree. I don't know what it is, but they're tiny. The trunk of it is not much bigger than your thumb. I don't know what they are. My husband doesn't know what it is. They get a real weird leaf on them, sort of long, banana-like. And we pull them out and weed whack them every year because they're over a bank behind a swimming pool, and it's very unattractive and they're spreading. how in the world can we kill them? They will not go away. We can cut them in May, and they're back in June.
What's she got, Bob?
Okay, good question. Now, is there anything else on that bank? Or is it just
it's real rocky, so, I mean, there's briars, but there's really no other trees or poison ivy or anything.
All right, and you're not trying to purposely grow anything on that bank?
No, it's like the kind of like a ravine, because it's a bank, but it's so close to our house, it's very unattractive, and they're spreading like wildfire.
Yeah, now typically on woody plants like that, you can use, and in this situation, you might be able to use like a woody brush killer that you can.
Okay.
You can mix that up in water and then spray those. So when they start to grow this spring.
Well, they're already there. They're already up there.
Okay, so there's stems there. There's no leaves on them.
No, but
okay, that's coming.
I have a feeling the buds will be out any day by the looks of them.
Yeah, so as they start to grow, you can treat that with a woody brush killer, and you could.
Okay. Do you recommend we whack them down and then do the brush killer?
No, I would. If they're already there, I would let the buds open up so you have a little bit of leaf surface there.
Okay.
And then treat them.
Okay.
And then that'll give some surface because it'll be absorbed into the plant. Yeah, so obviously it's and there doesn't seem to be any other trees around nearby or anything that might be.
Not really. I mean, we have briars, but that's pretty much it. The rest of it is,
okay.
I mean, we've tackled this for over 10 years, and you can do it 3 times a summer. We've cut them off to the ground. They grow right back.
Keep fighting. I'm out of time here.
Okay, thank you for your help. Have a good day, Bob.
All right, you also.
Thanks, everybody.